As we kick off the match season 2021, we hosted our annual webinar, How to Match in 2021 and Beat the Odds. And today we discussed various aspects. How do you match if you have an older year of graduation? So we had an applicant with 19 years old graduation, 2001. How do you match if you're a repeat applicant? So we had several of the students who successfully matched after attempting for the third time. How do you match if you have little or no USCE? How do you match if you have less than 2 or 3 interviews, so limited number of interviews? How do you match if you have a lot of research, but again, you don't have enough USCE? So what do you do? How do you match if you do not have complete application at the time of interviews? So something that may come up in the season as well. So we had applicants who applied without CS on September 15th, or some who applied in October, even without CS. So these are the topics we discussed. In fact, there was another topic very current which may be applicable to all of you IMGs who are maybe in US or outside US, which was the impact of COVID-19. What is likely to happen and how should you plan your application in view of this uncertainty? So watch on and good luck for the upcoming season.
All right. Good morning, good evening, everyone, whether you are in the US or in Asia. Hopefully, you're all safe and ready to apply for the next season. What we wanted to do today is this is our annual webinar. So we are going to talk about how some of our students have beaten the odds, what they have done differently, how they've been successful in matching. So that's the main agenda for today. Let's quickly do the introductions of our panel here, the revolving roundtable, and then we'll go over the theme. So let's start with Samir. Do you want to introduce yourself? Samir, your audio is not working probably.
This is Amir, and I graduated in 2014. I matched into internal medicine.
Thank you, Samir. Francis?
Well, good morning, everyone. So glad to see you, safe and sound. I miss you guys. My name is Francis Guerra. I graduated in 2001, and I'm matching to family medicine.
Wow, 2001. That's an achievement, I should think. Roshan?
Hi, good morning, guys. My name is Roshan, and I'm a Caribbean grad, and I graduated in 2017, and I matched into Pete's Neuro this year.
Thank you. Yash?
Hello, everyone. I hope you all are safe in this unprecedented times. My name is Yash Verma. I'm a repeat applicant, and I graduated in 2018, and I matched in internal medicine, in Michigan. So happy to help.
Good, good. And we also have Dr. George Koshi Vilenilam. Many of you may have seen him very active on Facebook, so he was gracious enough to lend his time today. So George, you need no introduction, but I'll still give it to you.
Hi, everyone. Hope you're all safe. Thank you for this opportunity to celebrate with all of you and then participate in this webinar. I am a first-year radiology resident, and I'm looking forward to answering any questions you may have.
George, I think your computer speaker may be giving out an echo, but Shrey, over to you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Shrey, and I'm a recent applicant. I'm a recent graduate, and I matched in my very first math cycle, and I'm happy to answer all my questions.
Shayan. Your audio, Shayan, your audio is not working. So I'm going to fix that. You may be muted on the phone. No, we'll come back. I think dial the number that I gave you and you should all be okay. Diana?
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
I'm Diana. I graduated in 2017, and this is my first match cycle, and I matched into pediatrics.
Thank you. Nimit, you're not on screen, but do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Nimit. I graduated in 2015, and this is my second match cycle, and I matched into neurology.
Okay, thank you. Quickly go over who we are, what we do, so that you guys get a sense, and then we'll get started. So for those of you who don't know us, our team at USMLE Sarthi helps pretty much in all aspects of the match. Not the exams, but pretty much rotations, and then our core is the interview preparation and application. So IRAS application, personal statement, which programs to apply, program selection, interview preparation, post-interview communication, rotation, so on and so forth. So you can look up our website. How we do it is we have classes, we have a Telegram community, a closed Telegram community, where we have all our students run by our physicians, and then we have physician mentors. So we have a team of over 25 physician mentors to guide the students. Everything you can see is on our website. We've consistently had good results over the past 6 years, about 87% over all specialties. Now we have more than 1,200 students that we've helped in the past 6 years, actually coming from 32 countries, various score ranges. And finally, I will tell you that the enrollment is open. You can check up our website. Now, very quickly, why are we here and I'll just give you 2 charts to get you some sense. So this is from NRMP survey of program directors 2018. I think that's the last survey that has come out. And the point here is that on an average, this is internal medicine. So on an average, you will see each program has about 14 spots, but they receive over 2,000 applications for those spots. So this is where the game-changing issue is. And then they invite about 220 for the interviews. Finally, they rank only 149. So the reason we are here is because all these students who you will see today have beaten these odds. For 14 spots on an average, again, internal medicine, 200 or so applications, and finally only 149 are ranked. So the competition is intense. And today we are going to talk about how, in general, you should be able to beat that, whether it is IM, FM, neuro, any specialty. The equation is pretty much the same. And also note that of applications that are rejected by the standard algorithm screening process is 61%. Only 32% of the applicants actually receive an interview. So your challenge is also how do you get to the interview stage. So that's all what we're going to talk about. NRMP kind of data, the factors or the programs thing for reviewing the or selecting the applicants for the interview. From an IMG perspective, it is definitely scores. As you can see, step 1 scores, letter of recommendations become very, very important. Personal statements, commitment to specialty, a big challenge for IMGs who are applying to multiple specialty. Prior knowledge helps if you've done rotations there. And then how do they rank the applicants? Another set of criteria. Of course, the interview performance in terms of interpersonal skills, interaction with the faculty during the interview, feedback from current residents if they know you, letters of recommendation, step 1 scores again, CK scores, all come into play. So this was what I wanted to set the stage with before we move on to our discussion for today.
Yeah,
so the first theme for today is many of the students apply multiple times, so first time or second time. So we're talking about repeat applicants. So what changes for repeat applicants when they apply or are successful? What do they struggle with? And how do they achieve the dream? So I'll go around the table. Francis, let's go to you. You were a repeat applicant, right?
Yes,
And
I
you were a
am.
2001 graduate. That is huge. So why
Yes.
don't you tell our audience on how you did it?
Well, I want to just a short thing. The first thing is that this was my second time applying for the match, and I want to tell everyone it hurts the first time that you don't, but I think that you have to overcome that and work in that resilience that you're going to need further during your life and as a resident, and then bring that experience to the game, because when you do this, your knees and stand up, you have to diagnose what you did wrong, and that's something that I introspect and went and did, and that's how I found your group, and I'm very grateful for that enlightenment in my life, because certainly it helped me to look at things that I didn't do right the first time. I applied late the first time. I didn't have a good CV, even if I have things to show when I have my mentor and faculty group. I find out that I was missing so much of how to present myself and sell my product, and I think that helped me a lot in the second application. The third point is that you guys opened my eyes to do not narrow my possibilities. I remember the first time we talked, Mr. Tawan, and I mean, I was amazed by all the windows that you opened up for me when I have that door closed. It was very, very good in that way. And also, there were some couple of things that you guys guide me to do, not just to improve my presentation in the CV, but also to reach out to the programs when I apply. I didn't do that the first time. I just applied, and that was it. Didn't told them before, didn't told them afterwards, didn't follow up, and actually that helped me to get interviews too. That reach out to the programs that helped me, and I think I told you that too. And certainly having a broad application. I'm an internal medicine physician. I did hematology and practice as an attendant in my homeland. And when I came here, I thought, well, that's what I'm going to do, and that's it, right? And when I have this conversation with you, you showed me that there were so many ways that I can go back into practice, which is my ultimate goal, to help people. And that's how I ended up matching in family medicine. You will think, well, how you saw yourself being so focused and narrow in something, and you ended up doing going into a complete different practice. But this is what you do with the work and the guidance that you can get with this group, with everybody. As simple as that.
Thank you, Francis. Roshan, you also were a repeat applicant, right? Anything,
Yeah,
any specific?
Yeah, so I'm a repeat applicant, and the major mistake I did last year when I applied was my interview performance. So my answers were not concrete enough, and I just put words, but I didn't give an example. So I did it, but because I thought I had many interviews, I'm going to match, but I did not.
Yep.
And this year, I applied to just few programs, and I learned my mistake in a hard way, but that's fine. So I got few interviews, but I matched. And the thing is, answering during an interview is really important. And people match with one interviews. And I know many people who match with one interviews. And if you do really good in interviews, it doesn't matter your scores, your research, or anything. It doesn't matter. You will match. So that was my experience. So prepare your interview for really well. Set a timer, practice like 1,000 times. I don't care, but you need to practice a lot.
Yeah,
that's really important. And also I did some clinical rotations, and I also focused more on research. I did present poster in conferences and things. So those also helped me. But I would say interview preparation is really, really important.
Good.
Yeah.
Yash, what was your experience with applying second time? I think you were a second time applicant?
Yeah. second-time applicant. So thank you, first of all, Pawan, for giving me this opportunity. I just want to congratulate everyone first. As everyone mentioned, Francis mentioned, first of all, determination is very important. That if every one of us can do it, even you can do it. As Roshan also mentioned, interview performance is very important. But I also want to tell you few important points that are, might be missing in your CV. So I applied last year in 2018, and I received only one interview. And this year I got 10 interviews. So it was complete change in my profile. And I think the most of the credit I should give it to the Sathi team, the whole panelists. It's amazing how everyone works towards, increasing and, making your profile very strong. They would introspect and they told me that my USCE has been lacking in hands-on rotations. So Sathi team helped me in getting those hands-on rotations. Secondly, one of the most important points that we all miss is, making your CV and your personal statement very nice and very thorough, clean, mistakeless, flawless. And this is where I think Sathi team does an amazing job. They have helped me, Americanize my CV and help me clean my mistakes, apply on time. Secondly, the mentors, they are really top-notch people, to look forward to. George, and I'm sure he has helped me a lot of times in research, and he'll tell you more about that. But really, research, USC, CVPS, everything becomes very important when you're a repeat applicant. The other point is, I think, step 3. Step 3 helped me boost my profile as well. And one of the important reasons I feel was the motivation through my mentors, that, they'll push you. You have only 6 months from period of March 15 or March 16 to September 15. That is only possible to do all these things if you are ready from the start. So buck up, time is yours and you can do it. So improve your profile, take step 3, USC, research, CVPS. If I can do it, everyone can do it. It's not difficult. Other thing as well, I think mentors will tell you around the clock all the time that few important points so you might be missing in your CVPS, and they'll help you all the way. So I think all these factors, including IB practice, as Roshan said, this helped me to achieve those 1 to 10, the double-digit dream interviews. And I feel that is the reason I matched. So thank you so much, Pawan and the team. I'm blessed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Nemeth, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Firstly, all of those who are watching, I know some of you might have not matched this year. I know it's a really painful thing. I know the feeling. I was in your shoes last year, as were most of the panelists who are here today. And all I can say is that by not matching, you can actually show a lot of things to the programs in the coming cycle. You can show what kind of determination you have by just working on your CV. In a lot of my interviews, I was asked, did you apply last year? People always ask, do programs know if you're repeat applicants? Yes, I think they do. So I was asked at a number of my interviews, what have you done since last year? And I could show through my clinical experience that I had gained. I gained a number of rotations. I had different hospitals all over the country. I was able to diversify my profile. I was able to add research to my profile. And programs really look for that what did you do to overcome this setback of not matching? Because it is a huge deal not matching. You've put in all this effort and time into it, and it's a huge setback. So when you are able to show programs that you're able to overcome it, and you're still working and you're still determined to get that residency, they really respect that, and you can go a long way through that to matching by just showing that. To give you just a personal account of it, I had received only 2 interviews last season partially because of my late application. And so this year, right after I did not apply, right after I did not match, I joined Sathi, and Sathi really gave me direction of what I need to do. And I'm really grateful for that. I was able to build up my CV. I was able to get research, more USCE, and I think that showed. And that's how I really ended up with more than 15 interviews. Pretty much that's the reason. And I think it's just that you have to take this, setback and continue to work towards it.
Yeah. Thank you, Namit. Cheyenne, are you back on
Hello?
audio? Yes,
Can you
we
hear
can
me
hear
guys?
you finally.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
can you introduce
let me
yourself and then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hi, I'm Cheyenne. I matched to internal medicine this year at Cleveland Clinic, Florida, and I am a repeat applicant, and this was my third time applying. So let me share my journey with you all and other attendees who are listening. So when I began my journey, as everyone mentioned about the CV personal statement was not that great, and I had no idea how to do that. Thankfully, I came into contact with USMLE Sarthi, especially Pawan and his whole team. Like one thing which I like most about, there are a lot of things, but which I would like to say is the team of USMLE Sarthi is not gonna spoon feed you, but will help you learn those tricks how to make the CV, which like every time I made my CV, I remember they may have completely crossed it out, but that's how I learned. Like every time I send it, it was again refreshed, happened back and forth, and that's how I got to learn where I'm making mistakes in terms of interview preparation as well. So first year I had 0 interviews. Second year I had 2. This time when I'm applying, I did have double-digit interviews. So fact of the matter is, again, obviously there was improvement from 0 interviews. Obviously, I felt pathetic like every other people does. But instead, Pawan and his whole team said, you have only 6 months. You can always feel pathetic, but at the same time, you can start working from the day one. We are there to support you. We are there to help you. So I started, there are people, Catherine and other people who just worked on me, being a resident, being an intern here, like how busy it could be, but still they had spent their time. I truly appreciate that. Without this support, it would not have been possible where I am. And it was my first choice, my dream. Obviously, coming back to research, which was my strongest area, and of USCE, so every day, since I started applying, I worked on my publications. I worked on getting posters. Then everything is like, how can we make your CV different? What else can we do? If I'm doing research, it would not be very feasible for me at the same time to do observership in other places because I have limitations with my J1 visa. So what Pawan and other team suggested, if you could observe at where you are doing research, that really helped me. I never knew of that fact. So what I started doing, I started rotating with pulmonary department in the morning, doing research in the afternoon. Then slowly I navigated my way, making sure I rotate in each and every specialty there available. I won't leave anyone stone under. Obviously, there were thousands emails with rejections, we cannot, this, that, we only take students and all. But let me tell you guys, if you are really passionate about that, keep on emailing them because it's going to help them as well. You're going to take care of the course, you can take care of some paper notes, right? So then I got my break in the internal medicine team floor. I rotated with them 6 months. So I was basically, I was working like an intern. At the same time, I didn't do any lag in my research as well. I was able to get 7 PubMed publications. I was able to get my poster accepted at AMA. I got national award for that. So when I went to the interview, obviously they asked me, what differently you did, then I showed this and this projects I did. At the same time, I would like to say that whenever you are explaining, you should be better thorough about your research project if you have multiple of them. Because what my feeling is that they may think that you may have just been part or you have just been added to the team, but you have no idea what project it is. You just want to increase the volume. So when I was picking up my QI projects there, the interviewer said, hey, it's really excellent, don't take me, otherwise I have seen people
they just add their name. But you were so thorough, you were so passionate. And the biggest achievement what I got and those remarks, which I'll be remembering him for the lifetime. He stood up from the interview table and said, "This is my CV, let me pull up my CV. I am 58 years old. See my publication and your publication. I don't know why it didn't match, but I wish you all the success. You are really a great candidate. We'll be more than happy to have you." So this was a remark which I believe was my greatest achievement in this cycle. Good. Yeah. Thank you. George, do you want to add something that may have missed, and before we move on to first-time applicants?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. I've been noting everybody's points, and they're really very, 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 very valid points, and especially Cheyenne, and especially in these times where getting USCE and everything is a little harder now. I would always recommend, even if you get multiple rejections from people saying you can't do rotations at your research, just keep trying, because this has worked for a lot of people, and it will continue to work, because you have limitations with your research, limitations with doing observerships outside your research because of your visa and everything. It's always very important that you don't feel discouraged after getting 1 or 2 rejections saying, it's policy. It's policy that we cannot take graduates, foreign graduates, etc. But once there's just one person who needs to take you in at one point, and after that, other people will see, and then slowly you can build up connections. And that works for a lot of people. It's very underestimated, and I feel that more people should take it up. So especially in times like these where observerships and rotations are not as freely available as before, trying to get a research position and then finding observerships through your research position would be a very important point, especially for this year and for the next year. That's just what I wanted to emphasize on. Everything else, everybody had talked about really valid points, and I have nothing to add.
Thank you. Thank you. So now let's switch gears for a minute and talk about folks who may be applying for the first time. So that is Deanna and Shreya. So let's get that experience on how they did it and what worked for them. And then Shreya, of course, we can also talk about what happens if you have to apply either late or, let's say you don't have CS, which may happen this year. But let's start first with Deanna. Deanna, what was your experience in terms of a first-time applicant? What do you think worked?
Hello, everyone. Again, well, as a first applicant, there were a lot of things that I didn't know. And maybe some of you know, I had an incomplete application as well. I did take my Step 2 CS only in December, so I was very unaware of everything that was going around, and I found the SARTI team, and I got a lot of help and feedback as to understand what my chances are and to be realistic, but at the same time not lose hope, which I think is very important, because sometimes we apply and then we're like, whatever, I just spend all the money and I don't care anymore. But it is important to keep on believing that you can do it even though all the odds are against you. And even though I knew my chances to get an interview were lower just because my application was incomplete and I didn't even have USCE at the moment, and being aware of that, when I got my 3 interviews, I was very happy, and I realized that this is my only chance. So preparing for the interviews was the most important thing. And I feel like a lot of people get into the despair of, I need more interviews, and they forget to focus on the interviews they have. So for me, it was, okay, I only have 3 interviews, but it's still a chance. If they invited me, as everybody in the SARTI team was saying, if they invited you, then it means they're interested. It means that to them, you are a good candidate. So with that in mind, I focused on my interview preparation. And I feel like the mock interviews to me were the most important part of it besides the lessons, because it's not enough to just sit in front of a mirror and practice questions. It's not enough to tell yourself the same thing until you convince yourself that what you're saying is true. You need an actual person that has gone through all this process, a person that knows what people are expecting of you, to give you feedback and to tell you, you did this right and you did this wrong. You need to work on that part and you need to focus on other things. So I did hear a lot of people saying that I practice with friends. Well, your friends are not doctors that went through the process. You need someone who went through the process and understands how it works. Then at the same time, I feel like it's very important before you go to the interview to have a balance between confidence and modesty, because it was very interesting to me. I'm coming from a country where doctors used to be very rude to us, so I was very used to being, in a way, showing confidence, but at the same time reacting to criticism. But here I went to my first interview and they started trying to flatter me in a way to see how I react to a good opinions. So, because sometimes when people say something good about you, all of a sudden you become overly confident, and it is important to be able to take good feedback and say thank you for taking the time to look at my application. Thank you for doing your part and noticing me, or something like that. Then another point is to be personable. I think this is very important in an interview, because I feel like a lot of us, as everybody said until now, we need to practice the interviews, because I have never had an interview in my life. I only had exams. I never had an interview. So it is important to practice. It is important to go through the questions and understand what they want from you, but at the same time, you don't want to go there and be like a computer reciting the answers to the questions. So I feel like it is important to pay attention to the feedback you receive from the people that are interviewing you, and to know when to stop and to know when to continue. And then another very important point that I felt helped me a lot was the interaction with the residents. I know the two of my interviews did not have a pre-interview dinner, but the one that did have it, I went there and I talked with everybody, and I feel like I learned a lot about the program, and at the same time I saw that I could actually work with those people. And it is important to understand that they're also residents like we are. And if you communicate with them, there is a lot of things that you can learn from them, and then they can help you in the process. And I think those were my main points that I focused on, and I'm very thankful for the SARTI team, because as I said, I had no idea what's waiting for me, but thanks to them, I went to my interviews confident that I know what's in front of me, and even though if I would get a question or two that I've never heard of, I knew what the right attitude was to tackle them. So good luck, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks. Okay, now let's go to Shrey. First-time applicant, recent graduate. I think you didn't have your CS when you applied, right? Shrey?
Yeah, right. Yeah, right, Pawan. So I was actually
just
received my. So yeah, so the very first thing that I told to myself is that you have to believe in yourself when you're diving into this journey. So within a 7 to 8 months, I have to do like 3 electives and gave 2 examinations, and as well as I gave 1 poster presentation. Initially, it felt to me that it is not possible because I don't have much time, but I told to myself that you have to believe in yourself and you have to be determined in this journey. Also, I don't have any seniors to help me out, so that way I took to Pawan for their help, and they did a tremendous job in going through these journeys and he helped me navigating what to do in this situation, what not to do. That worked for me really well, and I received later in a double-digit score. So all thanks to you. So what I did was when I don't have my CS score, so I immediately emailed or called programs that I will be receiving my results on this and that date in 2 to 3 weeks. So please forward this information to the program directors. And I also received some of the response that we do consider it. So that is a good point. And as soon as I received my scores, so I immediately contacted or called all of the programs that I have applied that I have received my scores and I have my updates in my profile. I mentioned it in my emails, what updated in my CV. That also helped me a lot. And doing hands-on USC is much more important rather than doing observerships, that I think. So Pawan told me that go for that shot, so I did all of my hands-on electives. Secondly, I think seeing the current situation right now with the pandemic, people do realize that they are going to give their CS exams later because of the cancellations. So my very first advice to all of them is that you don't need to panic, first of all. Second thing, there are so many IMG friendly states that they require CS results before rank order match list. So that would be like end of the Feb. So even if you don't have the CS results, don't get panic during the interviews and don't mention on these things, because you will get it and then mention them later about this thing. Third, I would say just keep him regular. I also maintain a regular contact during my interview season, that I keep updating my programs about my profile, about my scores, what I'm doing right now, what are my publications and research are. So that really helped me a lot during this process. And meanwhile, I'm also preparing for step 3. So that is also an additional boost if you can talk to the program about this. And finally, the most important thing is that you have to believe in yourself, that what I did. And I also, initially I was also hesitated that should I apply before my CS results or should I apply after my CS results. And I've been in contact with some of the people who applied later compared to me who applied earlier because of Pawan's advice. That really helped me a lot, because people with better profile than me, after getting CS results, they get less number of interviews than that I got. So that also worked for me really pretty well. And seeing the current situation, I advise everyone, don't need to panic. Everyone is in the same boat. Everyone is going to have the same situation, and program directors and program coordinators do consider this situation, and they will consider it if you don't have CS results. So just go with the process and trust yourself.
Thank you, Shreya. So we will come to the COVID situation and how applicants should prepare now. But let me get one other question out of the way. Many of you have more research than USCE. Some of you may have less USCE, so on and so forth. So I want to go around the virtual table and ask each of you, how did you balance either lack of USCE or too much research or less research? So, whatever your profile, let's go around the table. And Samir, let's start with you. How did you balance this research, USCE? I know you were researching. So in the interview, how did you balance?
Yeah, I started the year by doing 3 months of observership. And then I started the research in April. I kind of balanced both of them, but no one has really asked about the observership or paid attention to it. Most of the questions and the topics were related to what I'm doing now in the research. And I noticed that the research, knowing that the interview is a chance to know who you are, the research provided a good material for talking and saying more about who I am and what I can do and how I can manage a long-term work project, and that's in terms of the balance between them. And I guess that's it for the research.
Yeah, thank you.
I also
Fran-
did, like Cheyenne did, that I also went a couple of times to the clinics, but I did not really set it as a separate experience. I included it in the research experience.
Yeah. Francis, how did you balance, USCE or lack of it and your prior experience and research? I think you had a lot of it.
Yeah, I have a different story in this matter with the U.S. clinical experience, because when I was doing my fellowship in my home country, I came to the U.S. for 9 months and pretty much doing hands-on experiences at the time in my field. And my first time applying, I thought, well, that's still valid. That was 2008, right, 9 months. And during the time that I was here, I was teaching in college. And during that time in college, I had the opportunity to do some research with the students. But, before I get to be involved with USMLE Residency, I didn't think in my mind, this is how lost I was, about like, you have to renew this, you have to go again and contact your peers, your network from those times, and go back into do something more critical. So I reached out and then went back to do more U.S. clinical experience in local hospitals and then back in the universities where I was before. And ended up landing 6 months research that I'm doing right now in the clinic as well. So I think that for me personally, honestly, with all due respect to the research people, I'm more a clinical person. I really love the interaction with patients, and during my interviews, I try to focus my attention on that. And I think that one is witnessed when we practice during the interviews. Even if I was doing this research, I was very shy because I didn't feel confident about it. And I still remember in my mind I said, you have to sell this like this is something that's going to change the world. And I remember when that was approached to me in the interviews, that's the way I do it, right? Even if I don't feel like that's my strength. My strength is kind of, I remember for one in my mind saying, you have to sell this like this is going to change the world, and that's how I sell it, even if I was just working on that. So I think that to me personally, it works out to balance what my strength was, which is the clinic, and go for it. But also, listen, to everyone who has the opportunity to go into research, do it, because I think that's a good backup in case that they approach you with the question, are you interested in that? Because everybody has a different interest, and I mean, it's our responsibility to create knowledge, right? So I think that's something that if you can get it, also go for it, but also sell it, okay? Whatever they ask you, try to sell it in the interview. I think that was one mile, because I still remember that advice from him. That was one thing that really helped me a lot.
Thank you. Roshan, you also did quite a bit of research, right?
Yeah, so I did around 2 years of research. It's pure basic science research. And that's another reason I matched.
Tell us what were the challenges. I mean, basic science, how did you sell it in the interviews and convince them that you actually can do clinical stuff in the residency?
Yeah, that was a question they asked me basically. So basic science research, there's no clinical contact, but I still did some shadowing on weekends. It was really difficult and to manage both research and clinical experience. But for pediatric neurology, they are looking for an academic physician. So for an academic physician, you need a strong research background. And also, it was really fun doing the interview because I was talking about the experiments which I was doing. I said I was studying autism and started talking about brains, and it was really good for me to initiate conversation, and it was a really good conversation. And basic science research it's completely different from clinical research, and it's all experiment. I do work with mice. And to answer to your question, yeah, it was difficult for me to manage both clinical experience and also research, but I somehow did it because I didn't match last year, so I need to do something different. So I did work 7 days a week. So I did on weekends. I'd go and work in the local hospitals or just shadow attending. So that's how I manage research on USCE. And definitely research is a good topic during your interviews, especially it creates a long-term plan. For example, if you want to be an academic physician, definitely you want to do research in your field. So it shows that, okay, you are ready for next 10 years. So you want to do academic physician, not just in a rural area or something. So because most of the people doesn't know, there's a thing called O1 visa. Some of the IMGs also get O1 visa after residency, which is a way to stay in academic setting. So I thought of going in that way. So research basically is a good thing in your CV. You can talk a lot into your programs. And managing research, exams, if you have CK, that's going to be difficult, but with clinical experience and research, your CV looks really good. And you can talk a lot with programs.
Okay. Yash?
Yeah, so I also had quite a bit of research in USC as well. I had about 6 months of USC and about 1 year of research, and together we managed about 7 publications. So I think whatever you have on CV, the more you have is better, the more the merrier, as they say. But it's important to direct it in a way so that people would understand. For example, if you have a program which is a university program and you are interviewing there, it's important to direct it how you say about your research. So you say about your hypothesis, how you thought, what were the analysis and stuff like that. But when it comes to community programs, where, such as my example, most of my interviews were in a community program. So I was asked a lot of things about research, about what I did. So what I did was direct it towards how it will be helpful in clinical setting. So I would say that these QI projects helped me to understand how the research can help in clinical settings, how these QI projects will help me to, make patients understand the benefits of research and what were the results, and this is how we should do. That's the essence of evidence-based medicine, that the years of research has been used in clinical settings. So I think for me, what was important was to say during the interviews and express how the research helped me, either is in a university setting, on a clinical setting, or on a community-based setting. So I thought that was the most important thing, and Satya team helped me, forming my answers in a way that I can express my research in these programs. So I think that helped.
Thank you. Namit, are you still on?
Yeah, so for me, it was actually a little different story. I had more USC than research when I applied. I actually recently joined my research position. It's just been a couple of months when I had to send out my application. So for me, I had already about 12 months of USCE, but because I was applying for neurology, which is a more academically oriented field, even a little bit of research was talked about a lot in my interviews, because most of my interviews were university-based programs, so people were interested in what my ongoing projects were. And publications are definitely important, but even your current research, whatever you're doing, is of value and is a point that interviewers touch upon, because they want to know what you're doing. Talking about your research gives you a lot of things to talk about. When you're saying that, okay, I'm just doing an observership, it's like, okay, yeah, I'm just doing an observership in this. It's not as interesting to the interviewers as is research, because you're applying to the same field as they are. So they're really interested to know how you're contributing to the field. So they will ask you minute details. Of course, they're also judging whether you are actually involved. I think Shan said that, they want to know how much you are actually involved, or is just your name on the research projects. In many of my interviews, I can recall that I was asked specifically, what did you contribute to this project? And that whether it's just something like data collection, a small thing, be honest with your answer. Say that, yeah, okay, I just did data collection, but it helps, because you are still contributing in a way. You might not be doing groundbreaking work yourself, but you are part of a bigger project, and at the end of the day, it shows that you are good. You're working as a team. You're contributing to something, even though you're not getting full credit for it. And if during the course of your interviews you have certain publications that get accepted or certain posters that get accepted, bring those up also in the interview. For me, I had a poster that I had an abstract that was submitted and accepted after I sent in my application. So I mentioned that as well. I brought out, and they asked me, they're like, okay, how it was a case report. They specifically asked me, okay, what did you do in this case report? You know, how did you see the patient? Basically, they want to know whether it's just, were you involved completely in this project, or is it just something that, you know, your attending gave you and you just wrote it up? So I think that was important. That being said, I was also asked about some of my U.S. clinical experience because it was in a variety of places. They used to ask me what my responsibilities were, you know, because they want to know how involved you were as a team member, because they know the limitations you have as an observership as well. So they want to know what you did on your part to be a part of a team and to contribute and to learn, even in that limited role.
Thank you. Thank you. Before I come to George, you and Shrey and Diana on your experiences, let me go to Cheyenne, because I think he really had lots and lots of research. And, you know, how did you balance that research in USCE, Cheyenne?
Yeah. So for me, I did research for 2.5 years. And along with that, initially, I didn't have much of my USCE. I started doing my research. At the time, the point I realized when I went to the interview, they were saying that, you know, you do miss USCE and it's been a while that you have been out of the med school. So that kind of hinted me, hey, you know, it's time to do an USCE as well. So now the balance between research and USCE was very critical to me, because my research mentors were different from my clinical persons with whom I was rotating. So I cannot compromise either of them. So if I had to commit to the clinical rotation, which is very difficult to get in while you are doing research, so I'll be better at that. You know, I do come at time. If they are asking, then take the patient notes. Sometimes I was not allowed, so what I did, I took the help of the medical student to go with them and take down the history while they were asking the questions, because I was not allowed for the physical examination. But then with the request, they allowed me, hey, you know, you can present one case a day. Okay, and that was really a great opportunity for me. I utilized to it as an advantage. But at the same time, when I was done, I made sure that, you know, I also complete my research work, because I need to report to my mentor every week. So I better be good at that game as well. So these two was difficult to balance, but yeah, you can always make a strategy and balance it out, and people really appreciate it. And after that, I tried to relate my clinical works with my research by doing QI projects. So when the time of interview came and they were asking me, and I agree with Yash and Nimit that, you know, you need to explain your position and like how it's going to help you in the clinical setting. So for example, when I was explaining in a community hospital, I took the example of QA project, and they definitely asked on that. So I said, this is my cost-effective analysis I have done. So these are the loopholes which we are currently facing. So though it's a single center study, but I believe it's pretty much all over the US. So if we are taking this and this strategy, this much financial gain will be for the hospital, this much gain would be for the patient, and that's how we're going to improve the healthcare system, provide a better healthcare with a reduced cost. So they understood that this person has an overview, this person knows what he is doing and can have a transferable skill set which can be brought into the clinical practice. So when I went to a university program, so they were basically asking me about the broad aspects of the research in terms of how you see it, what is the foresee, your hypothesis, how did you come with the hypothesis, and the way it was never a straightforward question. So it's not like you just mug up and go there. You need to really understand. Even if you are just a part of the team, you have a lot to contribute in the research. Like start from data collection. Like with data collection, I explained them how I could understand the pattern, following the pattern, you know, each and everything, writing a manuscript. And this showed the, you know, I didn't have to say that I'm a team people's person. I have my analytical skills. They only said that, you know, you do have this skill. So it was like when they asked me about the strength, I took an example and kept on explaining them. So I think that was really a big deal breaker for me. Instead of just saying the qualities, I did have a great examples to explain them. So, and whenever they asked me about the clinical experience, they did ask me, like, you have shown that you are doing clinical experience as well as a research. How did you manage it? Like Pawan asked me, the same question was being asked twice in the interview. So I was very clearly, I was able to explain what was my role. And they wanted to know, are you overcommitting yourself? That's something, and you are not able to meet the target. So that's pretty much a red flag here. So I would suggest to any person, like, make sure that you don't overcommit and can't do. You can always say, you can always ask for the deadline, that's fine. There were times like when I was supposed to rotate at my medicine team, but I had a lot of other work. I had deadlines for submission of my manuscript. So I said them, today I won't be able to do, and they really appreciated that. So having an open communication, clear communication in day-to-day basis is really liked by everyone. If they don't think that you are superhuman, we are just an applicant, they would understand our situation. But unless until you're openly communicating with them, they probably will be waiting for you even to start the rounds. So I think these are the certain things. If we all keep in mind, our CVs are going to be great, our experience are going to be great, and we can really explain them in our interviews. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Shan. So I know that George is answering a lot of questions on USCE. Let me go to Deanna and then Shrey on what type of questions around USCE or lack of research did you guys get? So Deanna, how did you balance, people telling you didn't have either research or USCE? How did you balance this?
So I started my research in September, right beginning of September, and I did not have any USCE at the moment. And right before my interviews, I was talking with Pawan, and he was telling me, just keep on looking, just keep on asking for USCE, you will get it. And I kept on doing that. I'm living in California, and I talked with a lot of doctors here. Some doctors that I know, and they just said, we can't take you, at least if you were not graduate student, but you were a student, not a graduate. And I kept on getting rejections. So I kept on looking, and then I finally found a lady that said, just come shadow me in January. So I held on to that, and when I went to my interviews, I was telling them, I'm still looking, but hey, I have something. I have a promise that I will start shadowing in January. So even if you don't have it, just cling to something that you have, a promise at least, as I did. And that's how I tackled it, because I was very involved in the research, and all the questions that were about research were easy for me. But then when it came to the USCE, it was the lack of it that I had to handle, and it was the truth. I came to them with the truth because that was it. I couldn't do much about it.
Okay. And Shrey, what type of questions did you get? Whether USCE or research or lack of one or the other? I think you had electives, so probably it was okay.
Sure. So first of all, I would say that whenever you go for the interviews, the program directors want to see you as a resident more than as a researcher in my internal medicine residency thing. So I definitely make sure that I have enough USCE clinical electives experience so that I can show my strong application to them. Secondly, I would say that 3 electives is very much adequate to go through the internal medicine residency match. Doing more than 3 will add a little bit, but not that much. But at least you should do 3 electives in that period. Preferably go for the hands-on compared to the observerships. And as you say, it should be better if you have a waived LOR. Third thing, so I have a shortage of time. So meanwhile, I thought that what should I do for the research. So during that period of time, I contacted my medical school faculties if I can join them for research thing from the hometown, from the other part. So one of the faculties answered positively, and I worked with them for a research project. And fortunately, it was by the time the application time came, the project has been submitted to the journal. So I made sure that I have every bits of pieces in every part of my CV. So because it will help you to make your CV stronger, and it's much more better if you have an average score or low score. But even if you have competitive scores, make sure you have contribution to each of your parts. And after my research got submitted, I also did a poster presentation on that same topic, and later I got an opportunity to go for a conference, and in that period of time I also did a poster presentation that also added a value in my CV. So I make sure that everything has been added into my CV so that it looks appealing and it appears as that you are a well-rounded resident, so that they can take you into your program.
Good. Thank you. So George, I want you to take it next, talk about, if you have to, about this research, USCE balance. But the more critical question, I think, for all the applicants at this point is the COVID-19 pandemic, whether they are in home country or in the US. So once you start, what your thoughts are, what they should be doing, I'll go around the virtual table and, get some thoughts from our panelists as well. How do they think students should handle this unanticipated situation? So why don't you start and then we'll go around.
Thank you. Yes, so as Pawan mentioned, the first thing is it is unanticipated. So everything that you might have planned for this year might not work. So that's why you might totally need a completely different approach. I'm looking at the poll, and a lot of people are doing US research, USCE, and some small proportion are working in home country and doing remote research. I don't know what others in the other category are doing, but yeah, everybody's doing something. So the important thing here is, first and foremost, you have to be safe. Don't put yourself into situations where you feel like you have to do something just for the sake of your application. Okay? So be safe. That's the first thing. Second thing is, if you're already in a research position in the United States, you will not be kicked out. You will not have to leave. It's pretty much whatever your institution is doing, you will continue to follow their guidelines. So continue to work as much as possible. Many people in this group are in research and they're doing work from home, so continue to do whatever that is. Second, if you're in your home country and cannot travel to the United States, contact your own, university, contact your university hospitals, contact faculty seniors in your hometown, home country itself, and see if you can approach them for research opportunities there itself. Because right now, clinical opportunities might be limited even in your home country. I don't know how the situation is, but research is always, you can at least attempt to do remote research. By remote research, we mean things that probably don't involve clinical data or patient data. So it involves writing review articles, or if you're familiar with systematic reviews and doing that, or sometimes you might get some case reports, things that you can write from faculty in your medical school. So it doesn't matter what it is, as long as you're doing something productive with that time. And there are people who, even after you do remote research, are willing to give you letters of recommendation just because of your performance with them. Even though they might not have met you face-to-face, there are people, even in the United States, who will do the same thing. So not just home country research, if you have the opportunity to contact faculty in the United States who are doing research, who are involved in policy making, or who are involved in a lot of academics, contact them and, tell them who you are. Tell them that you are a residency applicant, you are an international medical graduate with so-and-so. Attach your CV and tell them that you are interested in doing some form of remote research and you want to contribute to whatever research they're doing, in whatever limitations they have. So US research, home country research, and any home country USC if possible. Next thing is, there might be a lot of voluntary activities happening in your home country itself. There might be outreach activities or volunteering activities, keeping a balance of your own safety, of course. Try to get involved in that. Try to spearhead things on your own. It doesn't matter what you do. Your volunteer experience does not really have to be a medical thing. All it matters is something that you're doing that is meaningful, and then you can talk about it in your interview. Because if, for example, during my interview, I had close to 15 or so experiences in my volunteer experiences. One interviewer asked me specifically just about my volunteer experiences. She asked me, okay, you did this from this time, you did this from this time. So you need to know specifically what you did and, and how you contributed, and be passionate about the work you do. People see a lot of that passion in your interviews, and that is why you're doing all these things, right? You're doing it not just as a filler for your application. You're doing it because you want to do it and you feel satisfied, you feel accomplished doing that, and that is what you need to show in your interviews. And I think probably in a couple of months when things settle down, continue to apply for research here, and as many people here have done it, apply for research here and secure a position, and from your research position try to do observerships or try to do rotations within. I think that would be the easiest method as of now, other than applying for rotations itself, because more people might be wary in getting international grads for doing rotations there. Even many electives, a lot of observerships, except for a few clinics, have been closed. So it's a really tricky situation. I think research, personally, I think research is the way to go once situation gets a little bit better. The third thing is, just to add on to what everyone else has said, yes, research is important. Yes, home country residency, yes, advanced degrees, all of these are important. But know when it is important. That's very important. A lot of people try to dive into research just because everyone else is doing it, okay? There are people who message on Facebook and this and that saying, I finished my step one, now how do I get research? That is not the answer. You need to finish your step one, step two, try to get the best scores, because there are fresh graduates who have high scores within the 260s who get in even without research, get into good programs without research. So make sure you have the prerequisites before, make sure you have your scores, you have your complete application, you have at least 3 US LORs or at least 2 US LORs, and USCE, because primarily programs are looking for a clinician first, than an academic researcher. Primary programs are looking for it, especially internal medicine programs. So make sure you have those things and then go on to research if you want to, or step 3 if you want to build up your application and make it stronger should you not match in that season. So know the importance, that is very important. And additionally, just to add on to why research is important, in addition to everything that everyone has said, it's good for interviews, et cetera, but also you get a lot of updates during your application season. You might get a poster accepted, you might get a publication, you might get something accepted, or any of those things. All of these are excuses to update programs. All of these are legit excuses to actually email your programs and say, hey, my abstract is accepted. Just wanted to update you. I love what I do. I just wanted to share this good news with you. Finished. So in that way, there are a lot of people who get 1 or 2 interviews or even rejections. That's fine, as long as programs review your application and you're not in limbo. So that is how all of these things will help you.
Thank you, George. And we are over time, so I quickly want to go around the table. Any last-minute comments, anything that we missed? I'll just ask each one of you before we open up for questions. Samir, anything to add finally? Thing we missed?
Yes, I had something in mind when going to each interview. Is I always thought about the time where they will sit down to rank me, and because everyone tends to run from discussing the gap, like I had a gap or any red flag you might have on your CV. I always had an agenda with me to discuss, so I can equip them with something to say when they sit down to rank me. If they have a question mark, they will not spend much time to go back to your CV at that time. They will just put you somewhere and more likely to be lower. So best thing is to address all the questions. And I have sometimes got into an interview where he would tell me, well, I don't know what to ask you. This happened to me. And I told him, well, I have some things that I want to discuss. And I discussed my agenda and I equipped them with the answers probably when the time ends to the rank, and I would need someone to advocate for me and say, well, this guy is good, let's put him higher. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you. Francis? Yes.
I would like to say too that we all apply to those multiple programs to try to get as much as interviews as we can. Guys, when you get the interviews from the programs that you're going to, study the program, study the people that they go and look at the demographics of the people that go to that hospital. You have no idea how helped me out in matching, because you get an idea and you can even customize your presentation to that setting as well too, right? So different from a community program, the university one, but this is a rural area, this is more people with, I don't know, more income, whatever. So that can even give you a hint of what they're looking for. And even if you don't feel like, fake it until you make it. Customize your stuff, go for it, but be prepared for that too. Because sometimes I think people that go in there doesn't even know, what the demographic or something, and you lose easily the side of what can help you in that regards too. And being honest too. As Diana said, be honest. Always, be kind, be humble, because that's something else that can help you out in this game. But study the program. That's important too.
Roshan, any last minute tips, thoughts?
Yeah. So the pattern which I observed during all the interviews it's like a panel interview, like 7 people, not a panel interview, it's like 7 individual interviews. And it's like a case presentation. So for example, you talk about time management with one person and 20 minutes goes away, and something else like with the other person, and they sit down and they put everything together like different organ systems, and that's how they rank you. So that's a pattern I noticed with all the, if who was watching this, and they should be aware of. They will pick something in your CV. For example, John mentioned volunteer experience, and they will see something like how you manage people or leadership skill or something. And then the other person will pick up on something, your US clinical experience. Another person will pick on research and hobbies. And then they sit down and put everything together, and they will visualize how you as a person. So I think putting a really good thing in your CV and preparing well for the interview is really important. And then finish your step 3, and especially during this crisis, and that's the best thing you can do, and step 3 helps a lot. But I didn't finish my step 3 yet, but I'm saying all the people, my friends, they finished step 3 and they got a lot of interviews and they matched, and definitely it helps. And then stay safe. I think that's most important. You don't want to spread virus everywhere and get everyone sick. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you. Yash, any last minute tips? Anything we missed?
I think we covered pretty much everything what we can improve in our CV. But one thing is very important, confidence, I think. You must be confident, you must be determined, and if you are, committed to a specialty or committed to, doing good work, become a doctor in the United States, you have to be confident, you have to be determined, and you have to push forward every moment of your life. So just stay determined. I think everyone is doing a great job. Hold on for now with this whole situation, but I think everyone is going to just be safe and stay determined. That's it.
Thank you. Nimit, are you on? Any last minute tips?
I just wanted to echo what George had to say about volunteering. That was one of the insights that I also got, was that, volunteer experience is also important because it shows that you want to be part of the community. So that was really important for me. I was also asked in my interviews about my volunteer experience. It is also another avenue for discussions in the interview. People like to see what you're passionate about outside of medicine. They want to see how much of, especially for international graduates who don't spend too much time in a particular place, but how they give back to that community as well. So I think that is important. And in times like these where we really can't do much clinically because of the situation we are in with COVID-19, I think that does present an opportunity for people to expand their CV or add to their CV. Of course, always consider your personal safety first. And then, if you can contribute to anything, step 3 is a great idea. to study for, because as soon as the prometric exam centers open, if you're ready to give it, that's another huge thing that you can add on your CV. If you can contact with a professor at some university, and if they're willing to let you do some a review article or some PubMed data collection, that is also another avenue that you can explore. But at the end of the day, you have to realize that you're not the only one in this situation. Everybody's here. Yeah, I know it's anxiety provoking at this point that you don't know what the future will entail, but just think of it with a cool mind. Plan how you're going to approach this, and just continue to work hard, and you'll get where you want to go.
Okay, thank you. Deanna, any last minute tips?
Yes, I actually want to back up Dr. George's idea with volunteering. I lacked USCE. I had no USCE, but I had 2 years of volunteering. Since I first came to the U.S., that's one thing I started to do, volunteering in everything I could. And since I applied to pediatrics, I was working with children. And in one interview, that was the only thing they asked from my CV, just my volunteering activity. And I know it might seem that it's not important, but if you find something that you can relate to and you can be passionate about, I think this is a very good point. And I just remember that there is something I have that is more than others. So yes, I can back up that.
Thank you. Cheyenne, anything that we missed?
Yeah, I think most of the points have been well touched and being explained by the panelists. And yeah, stay safe. That's very important. Don't do something just for your CV, but yeah, safety is important. At the same time, there are a lot of opportunities will come up, like doing systemic reviews. You can always reach out, which you can do remotely. And yeah, everyone is on the same boat, so don't worry and take step 3. That's very important. It really helped me. So yeah, taking step 3 is one of the things. And another thing I would like to touch base is that try, whenever you are joining any research or in your observership, try establishing contacts. Like for me, when I came here, I didn't know anyone. I didn't have any senior. So whatever contact is the one which I've earned, like the contacts which you earned, they are going to vouch for you. Like if you have really shown that passion, you need to have showing that passion, that confidence in you, and they'll really like you, and they would really want you to be in a team. That can sometimes supersede your scores and prerequisite credentials. But yeah, you have to be very much persistent for that and work with your contacts, keep in touch with them. Don't just forget after they have given you LOR. Small things does matter. Sending and just a simple thank you email on the Thanksgiving Day, if they have written a LOR. So in this way, what I gained is that getting a customized LOR. Like one of the interviewers really pulled out one of my LORs, said, this is really a terrific and great LOR. Like he has mentioned everything which you have did and what was your role and how did you accompany and how you are so different from other applicants. So that type of LOR which you would be targeting on. In order to get that, I believe that you need to really work with your mentor, show them that whatever the task they are giving, you are going above and beyond for that. I think that is something which will really help you over the time. Even during residency or fellowship application, relationships last longer. So that would be
very good, very good suggestion. Yes. Shrey, you get the final word.
So I think one important thing I think is important is the hobbies and interest, because because they want someone whom they can have fun, they can have chat with at the end of the week, and you can have a good conversations with. And in every interview, they have asked me about my hobbies and interests and what you do for living. And I definitely recommend people to have one skill set that you would like to enjoy during the residency time, and you should discuss on that part. And especially if you're from India, they definitely want to know about the cricket. So every interviewer asks me about explain cricket to me in 2 minutes and all these things. So it's important, but you don't need to prepare for it, but it's better if you have a good skill set and you can discuss about it. Rest everything, everyone has mentioned about everything, and stay safe, everyone. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. This was great. Thank you for the panel. We are over by 20 minutes. I really want to thank all of you. Your passion, I think, will rub off on the attendees today. Thank you, Samir, Francis, Roshan, Yash, Nemeth, Diana, Cheyenne, Shrey, and of course, George. Appreciate your time, and good luck, everyone. Stay safe, and best wishes for the next season.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pawan. Thank you so much.
you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Stay safe.
Thank
Good
you.
to see you.
Bye. Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.